There's a big difference between being kind and being a people pleaser. Too many of us confuse the two, believing that kindness means always saying yes, always being available, and always putting others before ourselves. But that's not kindness. That's self-betrayal. And if we're not careful, it becomes a way of life that leaves us drained, unfulfilled, and frustrated. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that being good means making everyone happy. That if we just give more, tolerate more, sacrifice more, then people will appreciate us, love us, and treat us well in return. But let me ask you, how often has that really worked? How many times have you bent over backward for people who never even noticed? How many times have you gone out of your way to help someone only to be met with silence when you needed support? That's not kindness being returned. That's kindness being exploited. See, kindness isn't about being a doormat. It's not about suppressing your own needs to accommodate others. True kindness comes from a place of strength, not weakness. It's a conscious decision, not a reflex born out of fear. When you say yes to everything and everyone, it's not always because you want to, it's often because you're afraid. Afraid of disappointing someone, afraid of conflict. But when fear controls your kindness, it stops being kindness at all. It becomes a currency you spend hoping for approval in return. You cannot keep emptying yourself for people who don't pour anything back into you. And yet, that's exactly what so many of us do. We walk around exhausted, drained, overwhelmed, not because of life itself, but because we've allowed too many people to take from us without setting any limits. And then we wonder why we feel invisible, why we feel unheard, why we feel unappreciated. The truth is, when you give without boundaries, people stop valuing what you give. Real kindness is selective. It's knowing when to extend a hand and when to step back. It's recognizing that not everyone deserves your energy, because the reality is some people only take. They thrive on your generosity, not because they appreciate it, but because they expect it. They've learned that you'll always be there, always say yes, always show up. So they stop valuing your presence. And when you finally say no, they act like you've betrayed them. But let me tell you something. Protecting your energy is not betrayal. Saying no does not make you a bad person. Prioritizing yourself does not make you selfish. It makes you wise. It makes you strong. It makes you someone who understands that kindness is a gift, not an obligation. Some of you need to hear this today. You don't owe anyone endless patience. You don't owe anyone the sacrifice of your well-being. You don't owe anyone your constant availability at the expense of your own peace. There's nothing noble about running yourself into the ground for people who wouldn't do the same for you. Now, some might say, but aren't we supposed to be kind to everyone? Yes, be kind, but kindness doesn't mean self-destruction. It doesn't mean becoming a person so desperate for approval that you forget who you are. If your kindness comes at the cost of your happiness, your sanity, or your dignity, then it's no longer kindness, it's self-sabotage. I want you to start seeing your kindness as something precious, because it is. And when something is precious, you don't give it away carelessly. You don't throw it at people who don't appreciate it. You don't waste it on those who take and never give back. You guard it. You protect it. You share it wisely. So today I'm asking you to stop being kind to everyone, not because kindness is wrong, but because not everyone deserves it. Give your kindness where it matters. Give it to the people who appreciate it, who reciprocate it, who make you feel seen and valued. Give it to those who lift you up, not just those who weigh you down. And the next time you hesitate to say no, the next time you feel guilty for setting a boundary, the next time you worry about disappointing someone, remember this: you were never put on this earth to be everything to everyone. You are not a limitless well. And the more you let people drain you dry, the less you have left to give to those who truly deserve it. Some people will hear the idea of not being kind to everyone and immediately push back. They'll say, but their kindness of virtue, aren't we supposed to love and serve others? And the answer is yes, kindness is a virtue, but that doesn't mean it should be handed out freely to just anyone. Because the hard truth is, not everyone deserves your kindness. That might sound harsh, but it's reality. There are people in this world who will take advantage of you, who will drain you, who will see your kindness as nothing more than an opportunity to use you. They aren't interested in your well-being. They don't respect your generosity. They simply take what they can get and move on, leaving you wondering what you did wrong. But you didn't do anything wrong except giving your kindness to someone who was never worthy of it in the first place. It's a difficult lesson to learn, but the sooner you understand it, the better off you'll be. Because when you try to be kind to everyone, you end up being kind to the wrong people. And when you're kind to the wrong people, you leave yourself open to manipulation, disappointment, and exhaustion. How many times have you given your time, your energy, your love, only to realize it was never appreciated? How many times have you gone out of your way to help someone who wouldn't even cross the street to help you in return? We have to stop believing that kindness is always the answer. It's not. Kindness should never come at the cost of your dignity. It should never come at the cost of your self-respect. It should never come at the cost of your well-being. There are people who will only see your kindness as weakness. They will take everything you give and then ask for more. And if you don't set limits, if you don't say enough is enough, they will keep taking until there is nothing left of you. You see, some people thrive on what they can get from others. They aren't looking for real relationships. They aren't interested in mutual respect. They are looking for an opportunity, for someone they can manipulate, for someone they can lean on without ever giving anything back. And if you let them, they will drain you dry. But the problem isn't just them. It's you. It's the part of you that keeps believing if you're just a little nicer, if you're just a little more patient, if you just give them one more chance, they'll change. But they won't, because they don't have to. You've already shown them that they can get what they want from you without ever having to give anything in return. Now, I'm not saying you should walk around being rude or cruel. That's not the point. The point is that kindness must be given wisely. It must be given to those who deserve it, to those who respect it, to those who value you in return. Stop wasting your kindness on people who don't appreciate it. Stop giving your heart to people who only know how to break it. Stop showing up for people who never show up for you. Some of you are exhausted right now, not because life is hard, but because you have surrounded yourself with the wrong people. You have spent too much time trying to be kind to people who were never meant to be in your life. And it's draining you. It's wearing you down. It's making you question yourself, your worth, your purpose. But hear me when I say this. You don't have to keep living this way. You can choose to protect your kindness. You can choose to be more careful about who you let into your life. You can choose to stop giving so much of yourself to people who have done nothing to earn it. Because the truth is, kindness is a gift, and not everyone deserves that gift. So stop feeling guilty for walking away. Stop feeling guilty for saying no. Stop feeling guilty for saying no. Stop feeling guilty for choosing yourself. You are not a bad person for refusing to be used. You are not selfish for setting boundaries. You are simply someone who has learned the hard way that not everyone is worthy of your kindness. And when you finally accept that, when you finally start being more selective about who gets access to you, you will find that your life becomes lighter, your heart becomes stronger, your peace becomes deeper, because you are no longer wasting your kindness. You are investing it in the right people. And that makes all the difference. Kindness is a beautiful thing, but it should never be one-sided. It should never be something you give endlessly while receiving nothing in return. The problem is that too many people mistake kindness for unconditional service. They believe that if they just keep giving, keep being patient, keep showing love, eventually they'll get the same in return. But life doesn't work that way. Respect must be mutual. And if it's not, then what you're offering isn't being valued. It's being taken for granted. How many times have you treated someone with kindness and respect only to be met with indifference or even disrespect? How many times have you gone out of your way to accommodate someone who never even thought to do the same for you? How many times have you overlooked rudeness, ignored insults, tolerated being treated as an afterthought? All because you believed that if you were just kind enough, things would change. But they didn't change, did they? They just got worse. You see, when you continuously give kindness to someone who does not appreciate it, you're not spreading goodness, You're teaching them that they can mistreat you without consequence. You're showing them that no matter what they do, you will always be there, always be forgiving, always be willing to tolerate whatever they throw your way. And when you allow that, you're not just losing their respect, you're losing your own. Respect is not something that can be begged for. It's not something you earn by being endlessly nice, by bending over backward, by sacrificing your own needs and boundaries. Respect is something that is either given freely or not at all. And if someone does not respect you, no amount of kindness is going to change that. The mistake so many people make is believing that kindness will soften a person who has no regard for them. But the truth is, if someone does not value you, your kindness will not open their heart. It will only give them more power over you. It will make them believe they can do whatever they want, say whatever they want, treat you however they want, and you will still be there with open arms. And when that happens, it's not their fault, it's yours, because you teach people how to treat you. You teach them by what you allow, by what you tolerate, by what you excuse. If you keep showing kindness to someone who does not respect you, they will continue to disrespect you, not because they are incapable of being better, but because they have no reason to be better. They have learned that you require nothing from them in return. And this is where so many people struggle. They think that withholding kindness makes them a bad person. That standing up for themselves, that walking away, that demanding respect somehow goes against the idea of being good. But let me tell you something. There is nothing good about allowing yourself to be disrespected. There is nothing noble about staying in situations where you are not valued. There is nothing honorable about constantly giving to those who never give back. Kindness should be given freely, but respect should be required. And if someone refuses to respect you, if they continue to take advantage of your goodness, if they continue to see you as someone they can use, then it is not unkind to walk away. It is necessary. Some of you have spent too much time trying to be kind to people who have never once considered being kind to you. You have poured yourself into relationships, into friendships, into situations where your presence was only tolerated, not appreciated. And you wonder why you feel empty. You wonder why you feel unseen. You wonder why you feel like no matter how much you give, it's never enough. But that's because you're giving to the wrong people. There are people out there who will see your kindness for what it is, a gift. There are people who will appreciate your heart, who will return your respect, who will meet your kindness with kindness of their own. Those are the people who deserve you, not the ones who take you for granted, not the ones who use your goodness as an excuse to treat you poorly, not the ones who only know how to take. You are not put on this earth to be walked over. You are not meant to be someone's emotional punching bag. You are not created to spend your life proving your worth to those who refuse to see it. Respect must be mutual. And if it isn't, then it's time to stop being so kind to those who don't deserve it. There's a common belief that being nice will always lead to good things. That if you just treat people with kindness, they will respect you, appreciate you, and give you the same in return. But life doesn't work that way. In fact, being too nice can sometimes do the exact opposite. It can weaken your authority. It can make people see you as someone they don't have to take seriously. It can turn you into someone they can walk all over without consequence. Some people confuse kindness with weakness. They believe that if you're always agreeable, always accommodating, always willing to compromise, then you must not have the strength to stand up for yourself. And once they see you that way, they will test you. They will push your limits. They will see just how much they can take before you finally push back. And the longer you allow it, the harder it becomes to regain the respect you lost. This happens in friendships, in relationships, in workplaces, even in leadership. A boss who is too nice will find that their employees don't take their instructions seriously. A parent who is too nice will realize that their child stops listening to their guidance. A friend who is too nice will one day wake up and see that they have become the one everyone calls when they need something, but never the one anyone calls just to check in. When you are too nice, people don't always see it as kindness, they see it as permission. Permission to ignore your needs. Permission to take without giving back. permission to treat you however they want, knowing you'll never stand up for yourself. Kindness should never come at the cost of your strength. It should never make you small. It should never make you afraid to say no. But that's exactly what happens when you let people believe they can do whatever they want and you will always be there with a smile. You begin to hold back your opinions because you don't want to upset anyone. You say yes when you really want to say no because you don't want to disappoint anyone. You avoid setting boundaries because you don't want to come across as difficult, and before you know it, your kindness has become a cage that traps you in a life where your voice doesn't matter. The truth is, people respect those who respect themselves. If you don't demand respect, you won't get it. If you don't set boundaries, people will keep pushing you further and further. If you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will do it for you. Some of you have been stuck in this cycle for far too long. You've spent years making sure everyone around you is happy, all while neglecting your own needs. You've avoided conflict to keep the peace, even when that peace came at the cost of your own well-being. You've smiled through disrespect, tolerated mistreatment, and convinced yourself that if you just keep being nice, things will get better. But they haven't, have they? Because that's not how the world works. People don't respect pushovers. They don't respect those who let themselves be taken advantage of. And if you want to be respected, if you want to be heard, if you want to be valued, then you have to stop being afraid of being firm. You have to stop thinking that standing up for yourself makes you unkind. Because real kindness is not about being agreeable all the time. Real kindness is about having a backbone. It's about knowing when to speak up. It's about knowing when to say enough is enough. The strongest people aren't the ones who are always trying to make everyone happy. The strongest people are the ones who know that sometimes making people uncomfortable is necessary. That sometimes saying no is the right thing to do. That sometimes drawing a line in the sand is the only way to make sure you don't get trampled over. You don't have to be rude, you don't have to be mean, but you do have to be firm. You do have to set standards. You do have to make it clear that while you are a kind person, you are not a weak person. And if someone mistakes your kindness for weakness, then it's time to remind them exactly who you are. Because at the end of the day, your kindness should never cost you your power. It should never make you smaller than you were meant to be. It should never take away the respect you deserve. So stop letting people think they can treat you any way they want just because you are nice. Be kind, yes, but never at the expense of your strength. There are far too many people walking around exhausted, drained, and stretched too thin. Not because life is just that hard, but because they've given so much of themselves to others that there's nothing left. They've convinced themselves that being a good person means always putting others first, always being available, always sacrificing their own needs for the sake of someone else's happiness. But that kind of thinking doesn't lead to fulfillment. It leads to burnout. It leads to resentment. It leads to a life where you are constantly giving but never receiving. The truth is, you cannot keep pouring into others when your own cup is empty. You cannot be everything to everyone without losing yourself in the process. And yet, so many people believe that taking care of themselves is selfish, that saying no is unkind, that setting boundaries means they aren't loving enough, giving enough, good enough. But let me tell you something. There is nothing selfish about self-care. There is nothing wrong with prioritizing yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. Some people live their whole lives believing that their worth is tied to how much they can do for others. They believe that if they just keep giving, keep sacrificing, keep putting everyone else first, then they will finally feel valued. But that moment never comes. Because the more you give without limits, the more people expect from you. The more you allow yourself to be drained, the less others will think twice about taking from you. And before you know it, you're not just tired, you're lost. You don't even recognize yourself anymore. You see, when you neglect yourself, you are teaching others that your needs don't matter. When you always say yes, people stop appreciating it. When you never set boundaries, people assume you don't have any. And when you constantly put yourself last, you end up surrounded by people who are perfectly fine letting you stay there. But that's not the life you were meant to live. You were not created to be a never-ending source of energy for others while ignoring your own well-being. You are not put here just to serve, to please, to exhaust yourself for the sake of people who wouldn't do the same for you. Some of you need to stop and ask yourselves, when was the last time you did something just for you? When was the last time you made a decision that wasn't based on what someone else wanted, but on what you needed? When was the last time you took a break without feeling guilty, said no without explaining yourself, or made your own peace a priority? Because if you don't take care of yourself, the world won't stop to do it for you. People will continue to take, continue to expect, continue to drain you, because they don't see the weight you're carrying. They only see what you give, and they assume that as long as you're still standing, you must be fine. But you're not fine, are you? You're tired. You're overwhelmed. You're running on fumes, and something has to change. It is not your job to fix everyone else's problems while ignoring your own. It is not your responsibility to carry the weight of other people's emotions while neglecting your own heart. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to make yourself a priority. And if someone makes you feel guilty for that, if someone tries to convince you that you are wrong for taking care of yourself, then that is someone who does not truly care about your well-being. They care about what they can get from you. You cannot continue to give your best to everyone else while giving yourself the leftovers. You cannot continue to live your life in a way that only serves others while leaving yourself empty, because you matter too. Your needs matter. Your health matters. Your happiness matters. And the moment you start believing that, the moment you start acting like you are just as important as the people you care for, everything will change. So stop waiting for permission to take care of yourself. Stop believing that you have to earn the right to rest, the right to set boundaries, the right to say, I need a break. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You only need the courage to finally put yourself first. Because the moment you do, you will realize that your worth was never in how much you gave. It was in who you were all along. There comes a point when you have to stop and ask yourself, who in my life is truly for me? Who values me not just for what I can give, not just for how much I do, but for who I am? Because the reality is not everyone around you is in your life because they love and respect you. Some are there out of convenience. Some are there because of what you provide. Some are there because they know you'll always say yes, always show up, always be the one to pick up the pieces when everything falls apart. But if you took all that away, if you stopped giving, stopped sacrificing, stopped bending over backward, how many of them would still be there? It's a hard truth to face, but necessary. Some people are only in your life because your kindness benefits them. They don't respect you. They don't appreciate you. They don't truly care about you. They care about what you bring to the table. And the moment you stop serving their needs, the moment you stop being the one who always gives, suddenly they disappear. Suddenly they're too busy. Suddenly they don't have time. And that tells you everything you need to know. When you start setting boundaries, when you stop overextending yourself, when you decide that your own well-being matters just as much as everyone else's, you will lose people. And that's not a bad thing. That's not something to fear. That's something to be grateful for. Because the people who walk away when you stop being their doormat were never meant to stay. They were never truly with you. They were with what you gave, with what you allowed, with how much you let them take without giving anything in return. Some of you are afraid to set boundaries because you think you'll end up alone, but hear me, losing the wrong people makes room for the right ones. The ones who don't love you for what you provide, but for who you are. The ones who don't see your kindness as an opportunity to take advantage, but as a reason to appreciate you even more. The ones who respect you, value you, and treat you the way you deserve to be treated. You cannot keep people in your life by overgiving. You cannot make people stay by exhausting yourself for their benefit. The ones who belong in your life will not leave just because you start valuing yourself. The ones who truly love you will not disappear the moment you stop being convenient for them. And the ones who do, let them go. Let them leave. Because their absence is not a loss, it's a blessing. Some of you have spent years trying to hold on to people who have already let go of you in their hearts. You have begged for respect from those who were never willing to give it. You have poured yourself into relationships where you were the only one trying, and you wonder why you feel drained, why you feel empty, why you feel like no matter how much you do, it's never enough. But that's because you're giving to the wrong people. You're giving to those who will never see your worth, no matter how much you prove it. Stop trying to convince people to value you. Stop waiting for someone to finally appreciate what you've been giving all along. If they don't see it now, they never will. And that's not a reflection of you. That's a reflection of them. You deserve better. You deserve people who give as much as they take. You deserve relationships where you are not just an option, but a priority. You deserve to be surrounded by those who see your heart, who cherish your kindness, who don't just expect you to always be there, but are willing to show up for you just as much. And if that means walking away from people who don't fit that standard, then walk away. If that means standing alone for a while, then stand alone, because I promise you, you will not stay alone forever. When you clear out the people who were never meant to be in your life, you make space for those who were. So stop being afraid of losing people. Stop holding on to those who have already let go of you. Stop giving your time, your love, your energy to those who wouldn't do the same for you. The right people, the ones who truly love and respect you, will never require you to sacrifice yourself to keep them. And the moment you understand that, the moment you finally let go of the ones who were never truly for you, you will find that the right people, the ones who see your worth, were waiting for you all along.